We're picking back up with part 2 of coding live Twitch bot. If you missed the first part, it's on YouTube with everything cut out except for the code. If everyone remembers, last time we were messing around with this Twitch class, right? This was just a representation of connecting to a Twitch, connecting to the Twitch server, joining a single channel. We only handle a single channel because it's keeping it pretty simple right now. I have my Twitch chat token in an environment variable. That's what we're using to authenticate. We spin up a background thread here to read input from the channel and parse it. If it matches a command, simple bang hello, it should work just fine. It responds, it says hello back to you. And that's pretty much it. And then while this thing is running, it reads what I'm typing on the command line and sends it to the chat. Right now, this is just a single file, one bot.rb file sitting in this directory. And I want to start refactoring this into something that's a little bit more representative of a project, right? Because we started with an empty file, we made everything ourselves. So the first thing we want to do is kind of start organizing things. If you look at our code, we have this class, and then we have a bunch of stuff that's happening in the script, and that shouldn't all be together. So let's get started by just moving some of this out. We want a directory structure that's going to work for us. So I'm going to want a bin directory for the executable, and I'm going to make a lib, and this is going to be mailbot. So we want a lib directory, and inside the lib directory we want a mailbot directory, and then in the lib directory itself we want mailbot.rb. So this is going to be the top level namespace for the project. It's going to be called mailbot, right? And we're going to set up our load path so that while we're here, we can load all the other relevant files. I want to move my Twitch class into a twitch.rb file. I want the class in its own file. So we'll copy all of that. We're gonna make a new file in libmailbot called twitch.rb, and we're gonna paste it all in there. So all of our stuff is in here now. And the other thing we're gonna need to do is we need these two standard library plugins, right? We need socket, we need logger. The two libraries that we need here, socket and logger, both used by the Twitch class, right? So we're gonna copy those. We're also gonna put those in the twitch.rb top of the class file. Now, from my mailbot.rb file, I'm going to require that, right? Oh, one thing I forgot to do is now that we have this namespace set up, everything needs to be inside of the mailbot namespace. And if you're not familiar with namespacing, I can talk about that a little bit. But the high-level idea is that we don't want naming conflicts. So if our code is running with something else that also happens to have a Twitch class, it will be segmented, and there won't be a conflict. So because our thing will be mailbot, and then Twitch inside of that. If that makes sense. All right, so make that namespace so we can see our directory structure here. All right. Top level directory, we have a bin directory, we have a lib directory, we have our bot.rb file, which we're actually going to get rid of here shortly, and then we have libmailbot, contains our Twitch class, contains the mailbot.rb file, and our bin directory, which is actually going to be, we're going to move bot.rb into the bin directory now. That's going to become our executable. So we can go back over the command line. Let's copy bot.rb into bin, and we'll call it mailbot. We want to make it executable. Whoops. chmod, right? All right, now we have a mailbot executable. What I did here was I added hashbang to the top, so we know that this file is a Ruby executable. Changed our load path, so it can locate the code that we're writing, require the code that we're writing on line 5 here. Keep everything else pretty much the same. The one notable exception is the Twitch class is now namespaced under mailbot, and then everything else should be the same. So hopefully, if I didn't break anything, everything should just work. I can execute bin mailbot. Success. I should be able to join the channel. And then I should be able to, there we go. After I do anything of note, I want to git commit. And I'm going to get rid of the bot.rb file because we've moved that, we've dissected our bot.rb file now into 3 other files: twitch.rb, mailbot.rb, and our executable, which is just called mailbot. So we'll get rid of bot.rb. We will add everything else to the Git repo. And dissect bot.rb into new structure. So the Twitch class represents what I think we're going to call a channel. Channel being a pipe that's open and talking to something else, right? Or it's reading input from Twitch, or a channel on Twitch. And then it pulls it into our bot and we do something with it. And I think eventually we want to extend that concept, or we want to generalize it, right? Because there's other channels in Twitch that we're going to want to talk to. And I think in that case, let's say I wanted to join Apocalypse's channel, or let's say that I have my one bot and I want to run it on both my channel and Apocalypse's channel. I think what I would do in that case, let's go back to our binary. I think what I would do in that case is I would want to make 2 instances of Twitch. And granted, we would have to change some things around so that right now the channel name is hard-coded and all that. But let's write imaginary code. Let's say bot2. Bot1 is open mailbox, right? And we'll say bot2 is Apocalypse, right? And that's the channel I want to join. And I should be able to do bot2.run. Exactly the same, right? And so let's ignore all this down here. But this is the DSL I want. I want to be able to just create as many bots as I want, each one connecting to different channels, and it should be that easy. Each one of these bots, when we run it, it's running in a background thread, right? So every time I run a new bot, I'm spinning up a new thread. And really, I should only be limited by this number of threads that I can run on one system. So, yeah, that's the abstraction I'm going for. And the other part of this that I want to do is I want to take this, which is our main thread, and I want to turn this into its own channel. Because what are we doing here? We're running in a loop. We're waiting until we get input from somewhere. In this case, the command line. And then we're doing stuff with it. That's exactly the same thing as what we're doing with Twitch. Waiting for input from Twitch, doing something with it, running in a loop. So I want to create this channel concept, and then we're going to have a Twitch channel, and we're going to have a standard input channel. So in lib mailbot, we'll create a channel class. And we're going to make Twitch inherit from channel. And we want to require channel. We're gonna start moving stuff out of our Twitch bot, or out of our Twitch class into the channel class. Common behavior, right? We're making a new channel for standard in, so that I don't have to have this while loop sitting in the middle of the binary. In addition to our channel parent class, we're going to make a standard in. Call it that, standard in.rb. Sure, we'll call it that. Standard in, and it's going to inherit from channel. Now, what is the common behavior between this loop and the loop we have in the Twitch bot? Well, it looks like we're doing this while something is running, do stuff. So let's abstract that. Let's pull that into the channel class. All channels will be able to, let's rename this. I don't like calling this run. Let's call it listen. All channels are going to listen, right? And while a channel is listening, it's going to while running, do something. All right. So what else are we going to want to steal from twitch.rb? Definitely we need a running variable. We want a logger. And we may or may not need a socket. So let's take these and put them inside the initializer. Default logger. And all right. So now in my Twitch class, I don't need, we're basically gonna call super, so we can run the initializer in the parent class, and then we're gonna have our own socket. That's the only local variable now in here. Everything else comes from the parent class. So in the channel base class, let's get rid of that for a second. Let's say we know we always want to set running to true. Let's always log something. Let's say initializing channel. Let's always log something. And then we always know we're going to run in a loop, or we always know that we're going to, in a background thread, run in a loop. And then I think the way we want to handle this is we want to yield. Let's make another method in here. Make it a private method called initialize channel. So, but we'll leave a note for ourselves here and say overridden in subclasses, but we'll always call it. Right. We'll initialize channel. So we'll let the parent class handle spinning up the threads and managing that. And we'll leave the channel specific behavior in the base class, or in the subclass. This is where I start second guessing myself. I don't know if I like this abstraction. Why don't we call run inside here? Because they're not really. I need my initialize channel method. I'm gonna do this stuff down here. Right, and I'm going to do all this down here. Right. Get rid of this. So the purpose of the run method should be what we want to do in a single iteration of our loop. Single iteration of the loop, right? We can put this log message down here too. All right, so we can now get rid of the thread management here. All that, I think. And I think that is everything. Yeah. So on a single turn of the loop, get the sockets that are ready for each socket, do our matching and whatnot. And then log it. All right, so we're gonna call listen, right? So what we actually want to be doing in our binary now is calling bot.listen. Actually, let's call this our channel. Whoops. While channel is running. Right, this is now our channel. So when we call channel.listen, it's going to do this stuff. It's going to initialize the channel. It's going to start the thread. And when listen is called, it's going to do this stuff, initialize the channel. That's all the things we want to do. And for each turn of the loop, right, like a channel here, right, it calls run. Let's define run in here. It should actually become a private method. And this we want to raise an exception if it's not defined. Let's try this out. Initializing, okay, so we have initializing channel mailbot. Right, okay. Welcome, right? Okay, everything looks good there. Alright, so I think we're still good. Let's try our bang hello command. Yep. So we're good. That was a solid refactor. Let's commit pull common channel behavior into a channel superclass. Now, our goal, remember, was to get this. We're gonna make a new channel for standard input. So what are we gonna need here? We're gonna need our initialize channel method. We're gonna need the run method. And then do we need to do anything when we're initializing this channel? No, I don't think so. So maybe we don't need this at all. But in our run method, what we're gonna need is all this stuff. If the command is quit, we're going to stop. And if not, this is interesting. So this is interesting. How do I let the channels communicate with each other? Do I want them to communicate with each other? The snag I'm having here is that these channels actually communicate with each other, because this is actually supposed to be a reference to the Twitch channel. Or actually, we want to send the input there, right? I didn't think about this. Probably should have thought about this when I was planning the architecture here. Maybe I don't like this after all. Maybe channels should only be incoming, not outgoing. What if we just get rid of standard in? We don't need it. My original thought was that channels would be anything that takes input and does something with it. But it turns out that there's a fundamental difference between channels that are consuming on Twitch, for instance, a Twitch channel, maybe a Discord channel if I wrote a Discord class, and our special little standard in, because we actually don't want to do anything. We actually want to take what comes from standard in and send it to one of the channels, which is different. It's different than how all the other channels behave. So maybe my channel abstraction was a little bit premature. Oh well. We may undo that in the future. We may undo this channel superclass at some point. I don't know. But it's good for now. So the other thing I have in my notes is I want to make a configuration class so we can start getting rid of the fact that we have like hard-coded open mailbox into the channel that we're going to join on Twitch, and make that configurable. So we could easily just use other channels. But the nickname is a great example of configuration. not everyone who uses this thing is going to be Open Mailbox. We want to make it so this Open Mailbox is not hard-coded into our code, right? We want to put it somewhere else, somewhere that's configurable. We're going to do that with a configuration class. So what does that look like? Make a new file, configuration. Okay, so our directory structure right now, we have a bin directory, we have a lib directory. We're going to want a config directory. And inside of our config directory, we are going to have a, let's call it settings.yaml. Let's make Twitch a key. Let's make nickname. Let's call it username. My username is Open Mailbox. All right, so this is our configuration file, YAML file. If everyone's familiar with YAML, very basic key value data structure, key value, a file of keys and values. So Twitch, and then there's a sub key username, and the value is Open Mailbox. So how are we going to use this thing? I want a method, a global method in our module called root that's going to return the file path of the root directory. That's in lib. Root. All right. And then back in my configuration class, I want the settings file to be mailbot.root plus config settings.yaml. Then, when I initialize this class, I want to yaml.load file settings file, and that's going to become our settings. Make that in reader, and we'll need the YAML library. So then, as soon as Mailbot comes into existence, we also need to require Mailbot configuration. As soon as Mailbot comes into existence, I want to have a config top level method that returns configuration.new. We're going to have our configuration here, and it's going to return an object that gives me the settings, right? So inside Twitch, my nickname, I'm going to, instead of doing nick open mailbox, I should be able to do mailbot.configuration.twitch.username. So why don't instead we say, let's make that a variable here, mailbot.config, I'm sorry, twitch.username, and then logger.info, preparing to connect to Twitch as username. And then username. All right, so let's see if that works. Now when we run this thing, oh no. Undefined method root for mailbot module. Coming from configuration line 5. Let's go look there. Right, because we're trying to call the root method before it's been defined. So actually, we probably need to switch the order of things here. We want to set up our module, and we want to set up the module, or at least essentially declare it before we can reference some of the things here. That should actually take care of the problem. Go back to our bot. Oh, something else is wrong. What do we get here? Initializing channel. Undefined method Twitch for mailbox configuration. Twitch.rb line 21. So what went wrong there? We're going to use a debugger because that's brilliant. So I'm not going to get into exactly what pry is, but let's just say it's the Ruby debugger, essentially. All right, so we dropped into our debugger. We are now right at that place. You can see it right there, right? You can see we're exactly where we dropped our debugger. Now I'm going to examine what is mailbot.config. Oh, I see. So settings is exactly what we want it to be. Has our username, it has Twitch. The problem is that I made a mistake saying that .config.twitch.username. .twitch is not a method because the result of this config is a settings hash. And I did that because in Rails, Ruby on Rails, that's like a nicety that you get automatically. It like takes these and makes them methods. So it's my mistake. Let's fix this. Let's go back to our code. And so how are we gonna fix this? We need this to be Twitch username. All right, and we can actually make sure that this is gonna work because we'll run the code again. Whoops. What do I do now? Oh, right. This is settings is actually what I want, right? So just so you can see what I did here, .config returns a hash, or .config is an object, and I want the settings out of it, right? So .settings, which is a hash, Twitch username. All right, so let's run that now. Success. All right, see up here we have our nice little message, preparing to connect to Twitch as open mailbox. Nice. So I could now go into the settings.yaml file and I could change this to Apocalypse or Black Sox Live or whatever the hell I want, and that's now the nickname it would use when I connect to Twitch. Granted, remember, you can't just pretend to be someone you're not, because if we go back and look at the Twitch file, you'll also see down here on line 27 that I'm using a Twitch chat token. That's an API token I generated that's unique to me, and it's in an environment variable so that I don't broadcast it out over the stream. But then you can, because it's the secret token, right? So I don't want to share that. You would have to, if you wanted to use this bot, you would have to pull the code down, go into configuration, put your username in there, and then you would also have to have an environment variable set correctly using an API token that you generated. So that's kind of a lot of steps. When I get to the point where I'm putting this code out publicly, I'll write instruction files and I'll probably clean this up so it's not quite so difficult. Before we get too much further here, let's git commit our progress. So what do we do? What did we accomplish? Let's take a look at the diff here. We added a configuration abstraction. We fixed that stop method. We pulled the Twitch username in through the configuration so that we can use that to connect to the server. Let's save that. Create configuration class and use it for Twitch username. Whoops. The last thing we're going to do tonight is something actually useful. Let's add a new command. And ignore, this is sloppy code, but we're going to keep it all right here right now, all right? So if the message is slow, we do that. Otherwise, if the message is something else that we'll get to in a second, we'll say something else, right? Do something else. So what do we want our new command to be? I don't know. I'm an old school Dungeons and Dragons nerd. We can make a D20. We can make a roll 1d20 command. Bang roll. All right. So all right. Let's do bang. Our command's going to be bang roll. And so when we do that, again, we're going to want to pull the user. We're going to log the command again and say that they typed bang roll. And then we're going to actually roll the dice, right? So get our random number here. Results. Right. And then send. And again, this is an example of something else that I would turn into configuration, the channel that we're using. Whoops. User rolled 1d20, rolled 1d20 and got results. Alright, that should give us what we want. So, where am I? Let's see. Alright. Ooh, yeah! There we go. We actually accomplished something. I think we're done for the night. So what did we do? We started with one file that had a bunch of code in it that was essentially a script. We refactored that into separate files so that we now have a nice directory structure here with our configuration and our actual code. We have a channel parent class and a Twitch subclass that inherits from it. We added a command. Yeah, so I think we actually got quite a bit done.